I'll tell you a little bit about Next Gen Politics. So we're a youth. We're basically student organizers who we're trying to make an impact, a local and statewide impact for students. So we're providing them volunteer opportunities. We're meeting them in their communities, in their city halls, in their I guess towns. So what we're essentially trying to do is provide real interactions with elected officials and students. We're trying to increase civic engagement in youth. And what else? We're trying to provide opportunities for youth to like meet government officials and like get involved. So hopefully, I spoke with your staff. Hopefully we can get more involved in your campaign and like help out. I know that Ashton has some ideas for like how we can help more with like youth engagement and providing you like resources and social media help. So I'm excited for that. Um,
Me
and
too.
yeah. So Ashton, you want to introduce? Oh, and I'm Daniel. I should have started with that, but I'm Daniel. I'm the chapter president, and Ashton can introduce himself.
Yeah, hello, Miss Henderson. Nice to meet you. I'm Ashton, a rising freshman at El Cerrito High School, which is in the Bay Area. If you, yeah, you know. So yeah, I'm the outreach director. I was the one been contacting your staff and been talking to them. They're really amazing. And yeah, thank you for being here. I'm really excited for the interview and be able to speak with you. And yeah, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
So am I. Thank you.
All right. So Ashton, you want to start off?
Okay, so let's begin the interview. I have some questions, and this is just background personal questions just for people can learn more about you. So obviously you talk about being an educator is a big thing for you, and you know it's amazing, and you're running for a state superintendent. So my first question is, what is your favorite memory as being an educator?
Oh, wow. Um, hmm, so many, so many. Okay, wow. So when I was a classroom teacher, I taught sixth grade, and I used to always refer to my students by their first and last names, Mr. So and so, so and so. So Mr. John Bush, Miss, Cynthia Jones, what have you. And the kids would always act as if they were annoyed by it. But it helped me to, as a new teacher, beginning of the school year, meeting them, get to know them and learn their names and everything. But they had to call me Miss Henderson, so I called them by their name. So one of my fondest memories is very recent. So last year, one of my students was taking classes at East LA College, which is one of our LACCD campuses, and I was at a scholarship event, and she was receiving a scholarship. And she was graduating. And so I was there to speak. I was the board president, and I was at the event to speak. And I always help give out awards and everything. And I hadn't seen her since she was in the sixth grade. And I felt someone tap me on the shoulder, and I turned around and I recognized her immediately, and she thought that I wouldn't remember her. And so I gave her name and I introduced her to everybody and said, "This is Miss So and so, so and so." And I was so excited to see her because, just she had been dealing with some things as a child and as a young adult. And, to know that she'd kind of been able to get things on track. So that's one of my fondest memories is seeing my former students now as adults that are successful and remember funny times with them when they were kids.
Yeah, and I love that how you called your students Miss and Mister. I think it really shows how you respect your students. And I think it just puts them on an equal playing field with you as an educator. And I think that those qualities you're most likely going to lead with as a state superintendent. So my next question is how did you come to develop your career in education? Like what led to you deciding to become a teacher's aide and the beginning of your career? You know, education, sadly, right now is something that many people aren't going into, but kind of what led you for this to be your passion and your purpose in your career?
Wow. So my oldest son is 34, and when he was 3 and a half, I was able to enroll him in a preschool program, a free reading literacy program, in LAUSD. And the program required parents to volunteer at least once, I think once for the year, but I used to volunteer all the time because at the time I wasn't working. I had a younger child at home, and so I would come in, and it was only 2 hours a day. So I would volunteer all the time. And then being at the school every day and volunteering, I was encouraged to join the PTA and the school site council as a parent and get involved, and I did, and I became very active. And then there was a opening to be a teacher's aide, and I took it so that I could be at the school, earn a little money, and be a little more involved in the kids' education. And that's how I became a TA. And while I was working as a TA, I was working with teachers that struggle with classroom management and working with kids that um, they were not at grade level. And it was really difficult for the teacher because the class sizes were pretty large, and teacher couldn't give those smaller groups of students and individual students kind of what they needed to just elevate. And so I would work with those students, and working with those students, I think I found my passion, and switched my life around and decided that I would work towards getting a teaching credential. And when I finished my undergrad degree, I hopped right into a credentialing program, and the rest is history.
Wow, what a great story. And I think hearing that you from the beginning have been an active parent, and then the school site council and PTA kind of has a soft spot for me. My mom has been active, so seeing more parents active in school activities and the students' education is really vital. So my last question on your background and your personal life, is we know you love reading, right? Like many people, I'm not the biggest reader, but I know that's something you love. So what is a book, especially in these times, that you would recommend to everyone, but in particularly the youth and teenagers?
Oh, wow. Um, mm, mm. I'm really big on history. I'm really big on the history not being repeated, but culture, so many books. And it's so funny, I'm drawing a blank. But a book that stuck with me when I was a young person, I think I read it when I was in high school, is a book called Jubilee. And I don't remember the author, but it's a more of a historical book and talking about Black people in America, how we got here through slavery and, some of the atrocities. But it's also sort of a book about hope and coming out. That book stuck with me. It just resonated with me. Another book that I found was one of my favorites that I think everybody should read, regardless of ethnicity, is a book called Zoot Suit by Luis Valdez. And it talks about Chicano culture in LA. And that was another book that just really resonated with me. And last year, I had the opportunity to meet Luis Valdez at one of our colleges, and I was, you know, stick a fork in me. I was done after that. It was just I really loved that book, and because when you love books, it's like reading books is like watching a movie. You start watching and you want to get to the end, but when you're reading a book, sometimes you have to put it down. And for me, the mark of a good book is when in my mind things are happening in the story when I'm not reading. So, I don't want to put it down because I don't want to miss something. So it's very much like watching a movie or a TV show that you just sort of binge watch. So, whenever I have opportunities to just read a really good book, I do. But those are two books that just really resonated with me since I was a much younger person that I would recommend.
Amazing. And I think in particular hearing about the history books and particularly Black history, I'm the former BSU president at my school, Permachu Middle School, and we did a lot of things regarding education policy, particularly in the history department. and trying to get more of those types of books involved into the classroom for more people can learn about this, and particularly Black youth. So I think it's really amazing that that's something really that you hold here near and dear to you. And yeah, so I'm gonna give it off to Daniel for the next set of questions.
All right, great. I'm exactly like that with my books. I always try to go to the end and like see what's happening. So I relate to that. But yeah, okay. So the next topic is education policies. So our first question is, um, are you prepared to tackle school district wealth inequality?
That's a very good question. You know, school districts get their money from tax revenue from local communities. And unfortunately, the schools that need it most are the schools that don't really get the funding allocations, even though it comes from the government, because most often our schools that are in need of the funding are in areas where there isn't a lot of tax or sufficient tax revenue generated because we have more multifamily dwellings, you know, apartments versus homes. Um, and some of the values of the homes aren't up to the same standard of value in other areas. And then you, in those areas where there is an income difference, those parents are able to contribute a lot more to the school and be more specifically involved. And so I think one of the ways to address that wealth inequity is just to make sure that when money comes down from the federal government and at the state level, we're allocating funds, that we don't do a one size fits all allocation, that we look at where the need is and what the need is in every school district. Because a lot of school districts have schools in a lot of different income areas. And so to make sure that we look at our funding allocations through a lens of equity.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, I come from a school district. My school district is a little bit nicer. I live in Burbank, but I mean, it sucks because I have cousins that are from LAUSD, and there are some schools that like they can't open on Fridays, like Grant High School. I'm not sure if you know that one. My cousin goes there and she doesn't have school like every other Friday or something like that because they just can't afford to keep it open. So that issue is kind of personal to me, and that's
Wow.
something, yeah, it's a big issue. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Our second question is, what are your plans to support teachers?
Well, in my day job, that's what I do.
Mhm.
So I work with the teacher credentialing program where I'm a faculty member and a clinical field supervisor. So I work with new and pre-service teachers. So I work with new teachers that are hired to be teachers but don't have their credentials, and folks that are not in a classroom but are working towards completing their credential. And then I supervise them during their student teaching, where they're in the classroom putting what they're learning in the program into practice. And I also have opportunities to work with their teachers and, you know, learn more about their school sites and what's going on, which I believe sets me apart from the other candidates in the race, that although I've been out of the classroom away from teaching for over a decade, I still interact very closely um, with teachers and school districts. And so the way to support teachers is literally to provide support. It's in credentialing programs. There are a lot of hoops that new teachers and pre-service teachers need to jump through with assessments and all of these things that make it really difficult. And then when they are teachers and they can be intern teachers, or you know, they're teaching while they are working towards their credentials, it's a lot of work involved and a lot of responsibility being a teacher. And I don't believe that the state really appreciates what it takes to become a fully credentialed teacher. And so in my job, in order to do my job, I have to maintain my teaching credential. And and so working with folks that are going through these challenges is it's infuriating to me, because most often people that are making the decisions as to what they think teachers should be able to do and 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 demonstrate comes from somebody that's never been a teacher or hasn't been a teacher in a very long time. And it makes it really difficult because the expectation is unreasonable oftentimes.
Yeah, my district has that problem where the district decides things. Our school board mostly isn't teachers. It's people that just have come in and have like allocated funds, and the teachers are really unhappy about that. So I totally understand what you're saying with that.
Well, one of your school board members is a good friend of mine.
Um, do you like what's their name?
Dr. Agakanian.
Oh, the board, I think the chair.
I think he may be chair, but I do a lot of work with him. He's the executive director for the foundation for East LA College.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. Um, let me see. Uh, what's your plan to tackle classroom size?
Mm. Whew, that is a plan for the ages. I would love to see classroom size reduced. There are circumstances that you can have a larger class size, and then there are others where you really need to allow teachers to have a little more opportunity to have individualized instruction with students. We either need to reduce class size or we need to hire more instructional aides and TAs to be in the classroom with teachers. You have one person responsible for shaping the minds and futures of over 30 people. And the idea that that can be done effectively and ensure that every student in that class gets what they need academically, socially, is impossible. It's ridiculous to have that thought. When I was a teacher, and it's shameful because it happens a lot to new teachers. Where when I was new to the classroom, I think I had 37 kids in my class, and I was only supposed to have like 32. And my principal, because he knew I didn't know, put these extra students in my class. And then I found out being asking people in my union, complaining about it and you wouldn't change it, that I was supposed to have gotten paid for those additional students. So you have a minimum number of students that, or max, and any student over that, the teacher is supposed to get paid extra. So I told him, pay me or take these kids out of my class because he didn't want to hire a teacher. So he just over enrolled all of us. And so we all got together and complained about it. And so he was forced to hire a teacher and then took those overflow kids and put them into another classroom, which essentially kind of reduced our classes because it was only five. I think he ended up maybe at some point hiring two additional teachers. And then the district received some grant funding. So we were able to go from 32 to I think it was 25 in sixth grade, which was amazing. And that I highly recommend, especially for lower grades.
Yeah, that's actually really impressive. I've never heard of like sixth grade. It's always been like first grade, just for our district. At the start of the year, actually, we had so much overflow that we didn't have enough seats. So we were just sitting on like foldable chairs in some of our classrooms. It was really
That's
bad.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pretty poor management, but like since now they fixed that. So it was just like I guess a start of the year issue. But yeah, thank you for
So
that.
they needed to get a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I know you have a successful track record of increasing or like fueling teachers' pay from your work as the trustee on the LA Community College Board. So, how do you plan to support teacher pay increases like statewide?
So I feel that there should be a standard new teacher salary that is a thriving wage versus new teacher salary. And most districts, now that teachers need to be credentialed to be hired, there hasn't been a change in new teacher salary. So I noticed some districts they pay substitutes that are credentialed a little more than they pay substitutes that aren't. But that beginning pay hasn't shifted. New teacher salary is higher, but across the state, different districts pay their even in LA, different teachers the salary that they give teachers is different. And a lot of them say it's because of their budgets. But there needs to be a flat universal starting salary for teachers, because what happens is teachers in some districts are fighting for salary increases to meet the minimum of other districts, where they should all at least be at the same level, same pay scale. So I would advocate. So the superintendent of public instruction sits on a number of education related board and policy making boards and commissions. And so I would definitely advocate um, for supporting a universal, if you can call it that, beginning teacher salary, to make sure that teachers are able to earn a living and not be forced to work during the summer, not be forced to take other jobs during the school year, and to focus on surviving and thriving.
Yeah, I really like that idea. It's good. All right, so I just wanted to point out our meeting, since it's a free Zoom, it's gonna end in like 10-ish minutes.
Okay,
So we can, if it's okay with you, we can just start a second meeting with the same link so we can
okay,
finish. Okay,
that's
awesome.
perfect. You gonna
Okay,
email it
so
to me?
it should be the same link. Do you want me to send it again though?
Oh no, okay, I'll just click back on it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. All
So
right.
Ashton, you can take it away.
Okay, and hearing, I just want to emphasize, hearing what you're talking about, the different pay discrepancies in different districts across for starting pay for teachers, and someone that goes to the West Contra Costa Unified School District, which is one of the lowest starting pay school districts in the state. It's really amazing to hear the ways you want to change that, and the ways that you've already recognized that that's an issue. So all because of the lack of time, I'll give one of the questions on the next topic, which is youth and governance and civic engagement. This is something that's really special to me. I'm in my district's All Student Congress, the district local control accountability plan. I was selected to be in the district anti-racism board, so this is something I really love. And my question is, what are your plans to increase youth-led civic engagement in K through 12 students?
I I encourage high school students specifically to be engaged politically, but also to be engaged in terms of what's happening at their school site. As I said earlier, teachers often wonder who's making decisions for that impact their classrooms. Students do too. Students want to know, why are you making these decisions and what are you basing it off of? When a district says we're data driven, but they're not using data to determine how they provide support, offer classes. I still have school districts asking how they can engage community colleges around dual enrollment and workforce opportunities for students. Um, so for me, it, as a teacher, it's important to make people aware, educate young people on what they can do, not have a deficit mindset of, well, you're just a kid, you can't do, because you guys are our future. I mean, like I said, my kids are in their 30s, and I remember when they were your age and getting involved and, taking them to events and introducing them to people and making sure that they understood what was going on, and sharing information that I gleaned from my involvement with PTA and school site council, and encouraging my kids to speak up and get their friends to speak up, because you all are impacted by decisions that are being made. And I feel that you should have a say in, not so much necessarily or always the actual decision, but have a voice in the discussion around what the decision comes out of, because you are impacted by it. Something as simple for me as parent involvement. I was at a school site where parents were encouraged to get involved, but I know that there are teachers that don't want parents in their classroom. And by law, your parents can't be kept out. But when you all are aware of that, you can say to your parents, hey, mom, dad, grandma, you know, come up to my school. They're having X. I know they probably didn't send an email, but you should come. The other thing is, Parents don't realize that they have an hour that they can take out of their job, not losing pay, to visit their children's school for parent teacher conferences, to just check in, what have you. It's a law. And a lot of school districts don't tell parents that. And so, so you wonder why parents aren't able to come to parent teacher conferences. Parent teacher conferences are in person, but they can also be held virtually. They can also be held by phone, right? And so the more you all are aware of what can be done, you can inform your parents and encourage your parents. You can encourage your friends to get involved and start fighting for things. Maybe it's something as simple as having Gatorade in a vending machine versus a soda or something like that, or just having water that's just available versus having to pay for it out of a vending machine. Make sure the water that you drink out of a water fountain is clean, but just being being aware of how you can advocate and how you should advocate is really important.
Most definitely. And I think on the aspect, as you mentioned, of um, parents being able to take time off of work with pay to be in their school sites, to be active parents, to be in things like, as you mentioned, teacher parent conferences. I think that's something that should be publicized in all school districts. But I feel like school districts, and particularly being in the room with the superintendents and other people, they talk about the lack of parent engagement. Well, if you're not telling them that there's opportunities for them to engage with pay, well, if you're working a 9 to 5, you might not be able to do that. But if you know that you will get paid for an hour and to be able to be engaged in your student's life, that's something that should be publicized. So,
Well, how it works is the parent can take legally, say to their employer, I have a
yeah.
parent teacher conference or I need to go to my child's school. They have an hour. Their pay can't be docked. So a lot of parents work jobs where they get a salary where if they're not there for an hour, they lose that hour.
Yeah.
With this, they should not lose their hour.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So Daniel, what's the time check? Can I, like, is there time for one more question or what do you think? What is the time?
Um, we, yeah, we can go ahead with one more question and then we'll end the meeting.
Okay, so one more question while we're currently on this Zoom call. Do you have any Gen Z staff or someone that's an intern for my county supervisor? I think Gen Z staff and interns is really an amazing thing, not just to give them an opportunity and experience, but also just to modernize your campaign and really make it different and also to engage with young people. So do you have any Gen Z staff or interns, people involved in your campaign?
I'll call him my former intern. He is my deputy campaign manager, Michael, is Gen Z. Michael's 21. Yeah, he's 21. He does a lot of my social media. He is absolutely amazing. So yes, we do have space um, for folks to get involved and help out, and however there is an interest. As we're raising money, we're hoping to be able to bring on some more paid positions. But yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanna I actually spoke with Michael, so that's pretty cool. But we have 10 more minutes, so we can just keep going and I'll let everyone know.
Sounds great. Thank you. And it's amazing that you have someone so young. 21 is definitely quite young to be able to be in such a high position, in your
Met him when
campaign.
he
It's
was in
really,
high school.
say it again.
I met him when he was in high school. He and some
Wow.
students, I think he was graduating high school. He and some students from his high school organized a pro-choice rally. And
Wow.
they reached out to all of the electeds in the area, and he called me, and I didn't realize, I thought he was just helping out, calling people, and I agreed to speak, and I got there and realized that it was completely run and organized by the high school students. I was just incredibly, incredibly impressed.
Wow. And I think maybe our next interview might need to be with Michael. He sounds like such a brilliant young
Yes.
person that's really
Michael
active.
is so the California Faculty Association, my union, we have a student organizing group that we fund. It's called Students for Quality Education. And on each of the 23 CSU campuses, we have two interns from SQE. And Michael is one at Sacramento State.
Wow. Oh wow, Sacramento. Oh, that's near. That's near where I am, Sacramento State. But my next question is, and this is a big topic in the Bay Area, and particularly because many cities like Oakland have implemented this. So would you support those 16 years and older, obviously now the voting age is 18, but 16 years and older, being able to have the right to vote for school board elections? This is a very Bay Area topic because it's something in our local elections that is happening, but definitely something statewide. So would you support those 16 and not being able to right to vote on local school board elections?
So in the Bay Area, they can vote for school board.
Yes, and so in particular cities, and particularly Oakland. Many other ones are trying to, like Burlingame, Hillsborough, etc., but Oakland in particular is one.
I love that. I love that. Well, now since 16-year-olds, I think what 15 and a half, you can register to vote. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you should be able to vote on issues that directly impact you, and education literally directly impacts you, especially members of your school boards. You should have some say in who's making decisions for you.
Yeah,
You're old
and
enough
that's
to drive,
amazing.
you should be old enough to vote.
The vote, exactly. I love that. So my next question is, do you plan to continue your predecessor, Mr. In the case you win, which knock on wood, your predecessor Tony Thurman's youth advisory board created to give students a voice in the public education. So the California Department of Education, I'm not sure if he created it, but I know it's a thing. The Youth Advisory Board, which is comprised of youth around the state, to be able to give their input on policies and different things in the superintendent's office and more.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
All right.
Sounds great. So I'll pass it on to you, Daniel.
All right, awesome. Okay. So, a little bit more about me. So, I run at my high school, I run something called what I call Burbank Model Congress. So, it's basically a nonpartisan civic engagement club. And because I noticed there was nothing at my school to engage us. So, what I did is I had guest speakers come, like the mayor of Burbank. I'm not sure if you know her, Nikki Perez. I talked with my state senator, Caroline Menjivar, and I spoke with her. So something that I was thinking next gen politics could I guess implement is something called the Civic Education Club Microgrant Program, which is essentially providing microgrants to high school and middle school clubs designed for civic education and engagement in a nonpartisan way. I know that there are many programs where they give grants to schools, but I think it might be beneficial to give it directly to students so they have an impact in where the money is allocated. And even just the process, I think, is important for students to learn, hey, I can go get help if I want to help my community out, you know? So, if you were elected, would you be willing to work with Next Gen Politics to implement something like this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think it's great to the idea of funding the club directly, because then you're thinking about your budget, you're really able to prioritize and organize around the money that you know, and then get some help, grant writing, and all of those are skill sets that you need to be organizers.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely.
awesome.
Definitely.
I'm glad. All right. So that was kind of mine. So I'll push it back to, we'll give it back to Ashton to go ahead.
Amazing and great question, Daniel, and it's amazing to hear what you've been doing, in that sector. So my next question is around your policy stances. So tell us about, what are your beliefs on gun reform and common sense gun laws, and particularly, with schools? Obviously, this is a big issue nationwide of, mass school shootings, Uvalde, Texas Tech, Sandy Hook, etc. Now, California isn't necessarily a state which has that problem massively, but it's still a big issue nationwide and could affect us in the state. So what is your stance on gun laws and particularly relating it to the classroom?
Yeah, yeah. And in California, we don't, we have you can have concealed carry, but kids can't. But most young people that get a gun, they bring it to school. It's not their gun. They got it out of their, from out of their homes. their parents, they had access. Um, I believe in any reform, legislation, policy, what have you, that keeps guns out of young people's hands. Um, I know that there are people that hunt and they teach their children how to hunt and they teach them how to use a gun. And 11 times out of 10, those are not the kids that are bringing those guns to school to hurt their classmates. Um, I am all for, I mean, we're calling them common sense, but obviously common sense is not common. And there should be a little more regulation in terms of um, people that have guns and how they store them, access to weapons. And I also think um, aside from gun reform is addressing in schools where teachers have a student telling them that something is happening to them and they ignore it. And they say to the young person, "Oh, you're gonna have to deal with that on your own," or what have you. There are a lot of things at play, but I am all for gun reform. I think, if you're not hunting, you don't need to have your gun accessible, in a glass gun cabinet where the key is accessible to a young person. Yeah.
Anti-racism policy part because the I'm a part of my district anti-racism policy board, and racism, which is a really underspoken thing, is still a big thing in schools across the state. And particularly in my school district, but definitely in schools all across the state. So how would you strengthen and build upon anti-racism policies across the state as superintendent?
Well, first of all, I think that um, in order to make policy effective, you've got to have some training and some understandings. So you need some anti-bias training. You need to have people address their personal and professional biases. Um, and because, and I'll use LGBT students as an example. If you feel that your religious beliefs don't allow you to respect a person of a different sexual orientation, you won't treat them with respect because you will believe that because you don't have the same religious values that that person does not deserve to have rights. And so addressing bias. But in terms of policy, is being really intentional about the policy, not just the blanket, we're not going to be racist here. What does that look like? Microaggressions. Um, things, for instance, if you're the only Black student or only Latino student in a classroom and all your teacher wants to talk about is slavery, how does that make you feel? Understanding how understanding how the decisions that you make impact other people. And so being really intentional about the policy. So you strengthen it by making sure that it's specific, it's targeted, and it hits the mark.
I love that. And as someone that's had those policy discussions, I think it's amazing to hear that you're not talking for a broad band, just we're not going to be racist policy, but more of let's get specific, let's get into the details and really have actual policy that matters. But that's the point. So my last question is about mental health, which obviously is a big thing for young people and particularly in schools, and it's critically underfunded. So how would you support and strengthen mental health services, and care for young people?
I worked at a school that had a psychologist once a week, and there were students that needed to talk to that person. In the community college system, we have healthcare, we have mental health counselors or counselors that can help students with mental health issues. Um, one counselor is assigned over 1,500 students versus having several folks that you can bring in to support people. So imagine if today you had a challenge and you called someone, you wouldn't be able to see them for several months. But right now, you're thinking about jumping off of the tallest buildings at your school site head first. You need to speak to somebody. And so the idea is to make sure that we have professionals that are available in whatever form that looks like. I have a friend that has offers a telehealth van that can be parked at a school site. There's no person inside. Everything is remote, but you talk to an actual person, and you can park the van at a school, and students can just maybe get a pass, go into the van, speak to somebody, go back to class, where you don't have to necessarily hire someone to to do that work. Being really creative to make sure that that access is accessible, that there isn't a fee, that for students to have access to mental health care. I think it should be free.
Mhm. Most definitely. And one more question came to mind, in particularly, in this era, regarding the Trump administration's cut to the education department. They've said, quite frankly, that they don't want it to exist. So what would you do as California superintendent, to, go against some of those education policy, that they want to remove, and particularly with grants, things that affect every school, and particularly in this state, and federal funding that might be, cut for the state of California in particular?
Well, what he's doing is essentially moving people out of the department, firing people that run the particular areas in the department, and then putting the work of that department in a department that has no understanding of what that's supposed to be. For instance, he put the student aid in under HUD. The person running HUD doesn't know how to run HUD. How are they going to know how to run federal student aid? And so what will happen is the money itself doesn't go away. What he's looking to do is be in line with those folks that want to privatize public education and take that money from the federal, so there's no go between, and it go right to the state. And so the state then has more say over how that money is spent across the state and with different schools. As superintendent, I would work with the attorney general, work with the governor, work with legislators to make sure that we fight this, or we are able to put some legislation and policy into place that allows us to better handle the changes to our state Department of Education.
Most definitely, and thank you for that answer. And I love how you use the word fight. I think that's what it's going to be for the next 4 years, and that's what you as the superintendent, hopefully, department head, but then everyone, to fight against the government that is not for the people, in my opinion. But next question is to Daniel, and you can finish it off.
All right, thanks. All right, so these last few questions are mostly just campaign stuff. So,
Mhm.
first, I know you're the only real teacher in this election. So, how does that experience make you the best candidate?
Oh my, because I have K-12 experience, community college experience, higher ed experience. And because community college is the bridge between K-12 and higher ed, and the programming that I've supported in community college, I feel that I'm best suited because I know what teachers need. I know how to reach students. I have a master's degree in teaching, literally teaching. So there's not a candidate in this race, whether they're a teacher or not, that can tell me how to teach, because that's literally what I have a certificate in doing. Um, I understand coalition building, relationship building, and negotiations. I understand how to talk to people to get what I need for the people that I need it for. I'm an advocate. I've been an education advocate on all three levels, and very active in my union as an organizer, as an activist. My background lends itself to my being the best candidate.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. All right. So, what is I know, I mean, I feel like you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what is your message to students about this election?
Oh, my message to students about this election is um, education is key. It's the foundation of a good, sustainable pathway to both economic and academic success. Not every student wants to go to college. Not every student can go to college right after high school. And so the idea is if you're not able to, don't want to, what are your options? Knowing what your options are and knowing how to be connected to those options through pathways, dual enrollment, workforce opportunities. A lot of labor unions have apprenticeship and internship programs that you can get into while you are in high school so that when you're graduating high school and you're of the age where you can join their union and get a job, you are in like Flynn and you are making, you know, good money, able to support yourself and help your family out. So my message is, just is understanding the power of education. Is not just school and book learning, it's just being knowledgeable and aware so that you can make good decisions and to get involved in not so much politics, but get involved in what's going around you. Know what's going on. Don't wait for other people to tell you. Know it for yourself.
Yeah, my school has like a CTE days. And we actually just got dual enrollment. It's still pretty new program. So it would be really cool to see that in other high schools as well, because it's actually really cool seeing like the all the tents with the different careers. And it's pretty cool when you can like see what a lifeguard does and you can talk to one. And then you turn to the next table and you talk to someone who works in solar. So that was a pretty fun experience for me and my friends. So I'm glad that you've like thought about that and you're like working on that.
This is why I support dual enrollment. So in most high schools, you have a few AP classes. Some have more than others, right? Not every student can access the AP course because normally it's a teacher or a counselor that makes the recommendation for the student to be in the class. AP courses inflate your GPA. So you can say, oh, I have a 5.6 or whatever, but they don't give you college credit. And if you don't pass the AP exam, you don't get credit for any of the class, right? But in dual enrollment, you get your high school credit, you get college credit, and you can essentially start taking classes in ninth grade because the state of California says they want students as early as ninth grade to start taking college classes. You can start taking classes and graduate high school with the units to transfer to a four-year university. You can have an associate's degree, or you can just graduate and then because K-12 kids attend community college for free, dual enrollment or not. The only difference is dual enrollment is an agreement with the school district that your students in your school will, or your district will be able to take classes at that college. But when I was a kid, we always high took our math and English classes during the summer to get ahead so that our senior year we have fewer classes. So it's been happening. It just hasn't been happening on an organized level. But I push dual enrollment because not every student can be enrolled in AP classes. And in my view, dual enrollment is the better option because I would rather my child have college classes under their belt graduating high school than an inflated GPA. But and that's part for me, parent engagement, parent education, to let parents know what the options are. So you're not feeling that your kid is missing out on something because they can't get into an AP class.
Yeah, I know that I have friends who can't they're taking the AP class, but they can't take the test because they just can't afford $100 for it, and it's kind of ridiculous. So I'm really glad that there are options like dual enrollment. Like I took some college classes just because my cousin showed me, oh, you can do this. So it was really it's nice knowing that like I'm doing stuff for my future and it's like building, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It'll have a marked impact.
Yeah. All right. So this is my last question to you. So, is your campaign grassroots?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. So, when I ran for my current seat on the LA Community College Board, I was endorsed by a number of young Democratic clubs. And so, you know, there was a pledge to not take money from law enforcement. There was a pledge to not take money from, different entities. But just as a taxpayer, as a candidate, there are entities that I've just elected not to accept money from. And so when you've made the agreement to not take money from people that can give you a lot of money, you rely on grassroots. So with my campaign, what we're focused on is building a movement, sort of much like Bernie Sanders when he ran for president, and he got people involved, and he really focused on young people. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that because you all are most impacted by the decisions that come out of, you know, this position. And so to have you involved and have your willingness to support and be engaged is it's tremendous. It's tremendous for my campaign, but for you, because people say, oh, we need young people to get involved. And then they get you there, but they want you to do the things that they want you to do the way that they want you to do it, not the way that you think is valuable. And to me, that defeats the purpose. You want the person, but not their voice. I want both.
Yeah, exactly. You summed it
And
up.
I want a movement across the state, where people are following us on social media and they are really engaged, but not just with this campaign. They're going to school board meetings and they
Mhm.
are speaking up as a group and, talking to their principals at their schools and asking for things and, speaking at PTA meetings and school site councils because school site council sets the budget for the school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Next Gen Politics is like trying to work on is like teaching students how do you advocate for stuff and like literally physically going to events and showing up for people because some people don't have someone to like support them in meetings and that'd be where we come in and we're like, hey, here's a community that you have to support you in this proposal. And I also know that the high school Dems of California is doing like a legislative program where students they help students like advocate for a proposed bill and then in their local communities. So
I love it.
yeah, I'm really
I love
excited
it.
to get to work with you and like on that and the microgrant program I was talking about.
Oh yeah, I think that's a wonderful opportunity for students on a lot of different levels, right? Like I said, the learning how to write a grant, but also you need there's a lot of information that you need to put into writing a grant. And so there's a lot of information gathering that I think would be beneficial for the students.
Yeah, and like building the community and just being aware, like you said.
Yeah. And also that idea of advocating and community building, that's how you strengthen your voice. The more students you have involved and you have a connection to the high school Democrats
Hmm.
or whomever, it's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
And when people, so all of us old people that are saying to you all, we want your voice, we want you to engage. When you engage, and I think that's what made Bernie Sanders' campaign so powerful, is the young people
Hmm.
because it showed that you want to be involved and you want to be more actively engaged, not just talk to. You want to engage. And that is what you need because you're going to be me in a few years talking to you while you're running for an office. Hint, hint. So I think it's important for me to support you as you're supporting me because it's a symbiotic relationship. We
Yeah.
both benefit.
Yeah.
So however I can be of assistance or support, you want me to talk to my friend on your school board?
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
He and I are very good friends.
That's great. Um, Ashton, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for being here. It's amazing that you just took the time out of your day to talk to us out of
Yeah.
anyone. It's really inspiring to see a candidate that's truly engaged with youth, that truly has policies that really represent the things that need to happen, and that truly understands what the problems are and how to fix them. And yeah, I think as Daniel said, we would love to work with you in the future, to really grow. And yeah, it's amazing, knock on some wood that win this race. And I would love to, work with you on spreading Black student unions across the state, making sure
I
that there's
would
representation
love
there.
that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. And reach out to Michael. Make sure you have a
We will.
conversation with him. Michael is incredible.
Does he live out here in like Sacramento Bay Area region?
He's in school there, but he lives in LA,
Oh, I
in
see.
LA area. Yeah.
Does he
Yeah. So
commute?
he's home for the summer.
Oh, okay.
He does. He comes home for things quite often.
Hmm.
Wow.
But when school is in, he's pretty much based in Sacramento.
Do
Wow.
you go up there too, or do you stay in LA?
I stay in LA pretty much, but running for this seat, I'll be traveling to Sacramento quite a bit.
That's awesome. And I think your husband is in government too?
Yes, my husband sits on the city council in our
Hmm.
city. I live in the city of Gardena. So
Hmm.
he's in his last term
Oh, okay.
on in the city council.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miss Anderson.
Thank you so
Thank
much, ma'am.
you. Thank you guys for making time to talk to me, and I truly appreciate your support and look forward to working together.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
All
Sure
right,
will.
take care. Bye.
Bye.